Hey guys, this is Lucid. Welcome back. This is we're about to be we're both mostly eaten by Marverni here, and we basically ended our nap with everybody and let them kind of attack us. Therados has taken a little bit of stuff. What we're gonna do in this episode though is not really talk about this turn or anything because I had kind of said things are about to go to shit. But we're gonna do the kind of final thoughts on Mekone. And I think how they're to be played and things like that after playing them. So, a few things too. I kind of told y'all I ended my nap and just kind of like gave up a little bit. I mean, I've been in the slow process of giving up for like 50 turns, but I mean, I tried to play pretty well, but you know, using the hand I was dealt. Yeah. So, the only thing I want to say about that is me ending my nap with these guys, I mean, they could have ended it with me at any time. So, basically, I just understood that the diplomatic landscape meant that nobody really was going to be compelled to attack me. Because I would probably go and like Diplo against them, or put a lot of like when I really did try to throw off Satis, and I was kind of successful. And so anyway, this could have happened anyway. I mean, I think if at any time Marverni wanted to attack me, he's in a stalemate with Satis, it probably could have happened at any time. But this is a few turns later, and things have kind of gotten out of control quickly. He's attacking me with tarts everywhere. Satis has some tarts. Marverni has some tarts. He's got boars running all over my lands. He's taken a lot of my forts already. There's a few things left here, but yeah, mostly not good. And I'm about to be knocked out. So, final thoughts on the nation. I think Mekone is a heaping pile of garbage. What are the good things about them? This is a good unit. The Elder Cyclops is good. What are the bad things about it? Is that really the most useful ones are the Air 2s. And you only get 1 in 4 of them. So you've got to waste, you get like, you know, you don't even get 2 a year. You get a little less than that. But, wait, yeah, because they're slow to recruit. Yeah. Yeah, you get like 1.5 a year on average. So then you can empower some, which is what I did. Because having these guys magic phase attack is the shit. They're pretty useful for foraging and other stuff, and then they're, yeah. What sucks about them is that they have these guys who are kind of expensive, and they're kind of horseshit in terms of quality of mages. They can do light thugging, just because they have high base HP, and they can have pretty good protection with a bit of armor, and it may be a weapon, so they're not punching things with their fist. So they can do some light thugging, and then the fire ones are kind of cool because they can Phoenix Pyre and then do some counter thugging, though they're not terribly good at that because they don't have great base stat line. But they're old, so they get a stat penalty, which is part of the not great stat line. They have these guys who I think are much more useful. I wish my research was shit, so on one hand I want to say I wish I got more of these, but that would have made my research more shit compared to getting more of these guys. But these E4s are much more useful in combat. Like, much more useful. So, I think I would have shifted the balance some to have more E4s, and then hopefully maybe had a few more research boosters to make up for their research problems. These guys are pretty good at thugging, and then if you're going to invest things in like an artificial communion, these guys are actually okay, because you know, these fire, earth, and air are, you know, like air's a really good path, but they're okay if you're high level. Problem is they're really low level. Like you can get up to Earth 2, with, you know, with Earth Power, it gets you up to Earth 3. Like, that's still, in the late game, it sucks. Like, you can do your buffs and then you're done. You're done. Yeah, there's no good, like, evocation or other sorts of stuff you're going to do with, like, large numbers of these guys. Same thing for fire. You can do Pillar of Fire, but Pillar of Fire, it's pretty good, but it's not great in the late game. And I didn't have Pillar of Fire really till, like, the very end of the game. And that could have been, like, a research priority thing, but even then, like, most of these guys are not going to be Fire 2. you're not going to have many Fire 2s. And so then you're going to have to use a Fire gem just to get them up to be Fire 2. Which, ideally you would be at least Fire 2 and you get up to Fire 3, and that's going to give you like a fatigue reduction so you can cast it a lot. I mean, we're basically naked and we have 5 encumbrance because we're old. And they're expensive. So to pay 180 for somebody, you're going to also have to put a Fire gem on every time you want them to do Pillar of Fire, which is really the only good combat spell they're going to be doing. And then if you want to have them cast much of anything useful in combat, you have to basically do an Artificial Communion with Crystal Gear, which you don't have really access to. It's a big heaping pile of shit. They are good thugs if you put gems on them. So, if you put an air, like the air randoms, if you put an air gem for Mist form, and then you do, because the air randoms are going to be Earth 1, then you do an Earth gem for Summon Earth Power, and then Iron Skin, and then a Fire gem for Phoenix Pyre. Yeah, they're pretty good thugs. But then you have to do that every single time you want them to fight. They need gear. You can mask them, but then the question, you have to have a ton of gear. I think one way, though, coming back to like how could you play the nation, I think if you really focus your Earth income into hammers, I think the one decent mid-late game thing this nation can do, like if you compare this guy to the Sid Champion, this guy can do about the same thing as Sid Champion can do, but he's cheaper if you put gems on him for him to do the self buffs. Either Phoenix Pyre and then protection buffs, or whatever. So if you have a ton of hammers, these guys might be able to kind of carry you with cheap thug gear in the late game. And I didn't really have a huge amount of gear production, but this sort of thing is kind of one-dimensional, so that's going to fall off. But it's something I think I could have done more of. Then you have your cap units. These guys are pretty good. I mean, I used them some. They're not better super combatants than your Cyclopses. You just get more of them. But like, we're fighting Satis, they get charmed and all of that. So, you can put MR gear on them, and then they can even do a little bit of like Iron Will on themselves potentially. But I mean, these guys are not bad. Yeah. I mean, the problem really is you're a low elemental path nation with of the worst elemental path. Oh, not really the worst. I mean, you could argue water is kind of worse than fire and earth, but like if you're elemental only, sorcery tends to be better late game. Astral Death, Nature, and Blood. These tend to be the better late game paths, with air being probably grouped in that. You can see I have a ton of gems because I've kind of given up at this point. So we've just been banking heavily for like 10 turns, 15 turns. But the problem, like, I put Galgate up because it's the only thing I could really cast, and I wanted to have some global, but you really need air mages to be able to make good use of air gems. And obviously anything's better than letting them sit in your bank. So like even empowering guys, but we're not an air nation. We don't really have enough. Like if we had air 2 mages regularly, then we could be cloud trapezing them around using our air bank and stuff. But we're really low. Like we're low air, we're low earth, we're low fire. If we were, yeah. We just really have bad mages. Is I think one of the major issues. They're okay for thugging, but like thugging like that's super one-dimensional. Really easy to get countered. Once some counters come out. I mean, it was enough to get us through our war with Kalem and Lanka, but in TNN, but yeah. Going back, looking at the roster. I mean, pole marks are good. They can do, I mean, these are heavy thugs. And then you have the Cyclopses who are good super combatants. You have these guys who, I mean, what can you say? They're basically the same. They're low. I mean, they're going to be kind of higher. Like you're going to actually, these guys are going to be 3 in one of these paths unless they're 2 in air, which, that's useful. Like 3 fire is not bad, 3 earth isn't bad. These guys are useful. If these guys were recruit anywhere, that might fix a ton of the problems in the nation. Then it would actually kind of be a good nation. They're expensive, so they're going to be hard to really mass, but at least you would have like a useful mage everywhere. Because being like 3 fire, 3 earth, or 2 air, like having that be one of your varieties for 300 gold, that would be useful. But it's cap only, and it competes with your only fucking good unit, which is the Elder Cyclops and the Polemarch. The Basilius, it's the same shit, except we add a little bit of water to the mix. I mean, and it's slow to recruit. So, yeah. And then for troops, the Peltasts are pretty cool for early fighting and if you're not storming forts. So I do like using them for expansion, and they were kind of fun for the first war. But after that, you just have all the problems. I mean, you have bad morale human troops, basically. And so you really can't use them in the mid-game. Or late mid-game, certainly. And then that leaves us these guys, which are like the one redeeming feature of the nation. Because they're size 4 with formation fighter, and they have really good armor and good hit points. They don't have great magic resistance, so like by the late game, if you're fighting an astral nation or a death nation or a nature nation that's going to charm, like, who the fuck cares that they've got 30 protection and 30 hit points? Because they're just going to get charmed. So you can't, but they have magic weapons. I mean, it's a good troop. But it's not, like, overpoweredly good. You know, it's a high resource cost, so you, like, wouldn't be able to max them that much in theory. And they're not that good because, you know, they're still, like, huge targets for things that go to magic resistance. But, like, this would be good, but you can only get one of them per fort. So, I mean, just a major dick punch. And then your forts generate unrest, which I think is, like, the biggest dick punch. So, could you win with Mekone? That's a question I've been thinking about. And I think the answer is yes. I think if it were a small map or a blitz, there are like 8 players, there are enough things you can do in the mid-game that if you played it right, you could win. But this is a big map. This is a lot of players. It's 20 players. I think Mekone has no chance in the late game if there's competent players in the game. What could we have done differently? Well, we could have focused, I think, a little bit more on hammers and getting efficient, cheap thugs out, because that's the only thing these guys are good for. And while I didn't show you all of it, I mean, I did a fair amount of thugging with them, and it wasn't terribly effective, but it wasn't terribly ineffective. But I think it was one of the more effective things I did, even though it was generally ineffective at the end of the game. So we could add more of that, maybe. I think the major weaknesses in this nation are having shitty mages, but then also you don't have terribly, like, it's really hard. It is a effing challenge for you to break into Astral Well, for you to break into Death Well, for you to break into Nature Well. Like, all of these were independent challenges for me, and to break into Blood Well. And with the nation that's not good at anything in the late game, like your mages aren't good in, like if I had really good air mages, I'd be like, okay, maybe I can skip some of the sorcery. But no, these are going to be extremely important for you in the late game, especially as Mekone, because you have really nothing else to rely on. So, like, I think the major problem you have to solve with your Pretender, and this is something I didn't pick well, is magic diversity and sorcery. So I'm not sure what Pretender I would get, but I would get one that is going to that's basically going to allow me to do Astral Death, Nature, and Blood stuff. And build every single one of those boosters that I need. And summon a few mages for each of those. I think that is the major change I would make. Like, fuck whatever bless, fuck your scales. None of that's going to matter if you get to the late game like I did, and you can't do a lot of useful stuff over here. So, I think that those are the major things. Maybe we'll go and we'll quit and we'll see what we would do for a Pretender here. I think the best solution is just not play the nation. It's cool in theory. Okay, if I were a developer, what would I do to fix it? Let's say let's say the unrest is thematically cool, and we're not going to get rid of it. Because honestly, you should just get rid of it. Because the nation's too shitty. But I think what's cooler would be to keep it, because it's thematic and unique, and to make the nation not shitty. Step number 1 is get rid of any recruitment limit on these guys. Just get rid of it. You are not at risk of making this nation too strong. Get rid of it and let as much... you're going to be resource constrained. These guys cost a shit ton of resources. As many resources as you have, you can poop these guys out. They can be countered. You're not going to make them too strong. I think if you did that, you would give Mekone a really strong mid-game. They could do things that their nation can do, like you could go for Earth stuff, and you could do riches from beneath, and get a lot of resources, and then poop out a lot of these guys, and they're pretty good. But it wouldn't be overpowered. These guys, you know, are going to be pretty expensive in terms of upkeep. And it would be cool. You would actually have like big armies of these guys. These guys, basically all these units you've given here, maybe not these guys, I'm not sure. How many? Yeah, 4 ammo. Yeah, but these are size 4 without formation fighter. Everybody to the left of this is completely useless in the late game. So just imagine for like, really honestly mid-game too. But like late mid-game and late game, just ignore everything over here. Completely useless. So, yeah. That would be the number 1 change I would make, is get rid of these things. And then you can keep the other dick punches, like the Fort's Increased Unrest, which are kind of thematic and flavorful. That would be enough, I think, to make the nation kind of playable, if you did that. I don't think they would be strong. If you want to make them a little strong, like, not where they're going to be one of the stronger nations in early age, but just where you, like, are hopeful about winning games and stuff. Well, okay, you should also get rid of the old age being hard-coded into these guys, so that if you take an unaging bless, these guys won't be old. If you do that, then it starts opening up more thug options for this nation, which would be kind of cool. Because right now, even if you take unaging, it's still hard-coded in here. So I think that would be a good second step. A good third step maybe, okay. I think if you made these guys recruit anywhere, it might be a little too strong. Like maybe if you got rid of Sacred and Holy on these guys and made them recruit anywhere. Or you could make them recruit anywhere, slow to recruit. I think that would be a fair... I think that's what you would do. Make these guys slow to recruit and recruit anywhere. And that would be kind of interesting. That would put Mekone in a weird spot where like they need to have a lot of forts to get an efficient number of these guys out. But their forts cause unrest. But these guys don't actually suck. So they would have something they could get a reasonable quantity of that aren't complete fucking garbage. Those are kind of my thoughts. You know, as it stands, yeah, I think if you want to win in the early game, you can win, I think, off peltasts and then small crews of these, you know, like pole marks and then your Gigante units. But yeah, I think after the mid game, you're in deep shit. So anyway, we're gonna go look at a god. So we want a god that's going to give us cheap access to sorcery. Okay, here's 3 sorcery pass. So Mother of Monsters is a good candidate. And we don't have to have all 3. Having a super combat would be kind of cool. And we also potentially want to do... Oh, and we can't get rainbows, which is kind of shitty. Get a Telkine. Who here is going to be sorcery? Not a lot of these guys are sorcery. So I think what you would do, what I would do, what we would do, I think you get her. I think you have to get her. what would we do for our bliss? If they fix the unaging thing, where that's not hard-coded into the unit, I think you would go this. If not, you might go recuperation, which in combination with death is going to open up tarts for you in the late game. So let's say you do that. Recuperation probably, unless they have tarts. I mean, unless they fix the unaging thing. For this, what would we do? I mean, Half Dead wouldn't be hard. Well, Half Dead's bad because you have to take death. God, there's just nothing good here for death for us. I have no idea what I'd get. Probably Blood Surge here. What would I do with death? Not Withering Weapons. Not Half Dead because we're not going death scales. We could do Undying, that would be kind of shit. And Death 4 is all we really need to climb high into death, because that's going to give us access to Skull Staffs, which will give us access to Liches. And then Skull Staff will also give us access to Skull Faces. And if the only thing we don't have high in is Astral, that's probably okay. I mean, Astral is one of the harder paths to climb. Like to climb high in, but you can't have everything. And potentially we can empower our god in like fire, and then we could potentially get the fire blood. I mean, pretty unlikely we got one of the archdevils, which would give you astral access, but it's a possibility. Really unsure what we would get. I mean, if we actually get to tarts, Reforming Flesh is going to be the best, but it's going to do literally nothing for you until you get there. But I think everything above this is going to do literally nothing for you until you get there also. Like, I mean, Undying will do something, but not much. Undead Command's going to do basically nothing. Withering Weapons will do not much, because we don't have any Sacred Troops, and it's shit on thugs for the most part. So I guess you would do Reforming Flesh and then pick up 2 more. Now you can do a pretty easy Will of Misery play. Something like... You have fire, so maybe you go heat. You definitely want resources. And you have shitty mages, but you can do a lot of boosters, so I don't... You could probably go either way on magic. You're gonna have to be patrolling anyway in your high income places like your forts, so you probably could go a little bit of turmoil. Go magic. Maybe you go turmoil luck. This might cut your Peltas production down, so you might like nerf luck 1 and do only turmoil 2 or something. I'm not totally sure. This probably would have been better. I at least would have had a shot. Like this, I think if you're in like a 12-player game, if you're in a blitz, you might go with something more greedy, like a Dormant Titan or an Awake Expander. But if you're in like a 12-player game, I think you have like to have a chance at late game with these idiots. You must have some sorcery paths on your god. So this might be something I would do. That might be something I would do. But as it stands, I would say that winning with Mekone would be pretty tough. For some of you who don't know, the other nations that the things I didn't finish, it's kind of painful coming back and finishing. I'm trying to do it better, or do a better job at it now, like games that I lose of finishing them. But like, I lost the Ulm game where we ended up fighting with Relay. Basically, that went to like turn 120, and it was kind of a draw. I wasn't actually losing, but nobody was going to win for another like 30 turns. And nothing was changing. The game had been the same. Like, everybody had the same provinces they did like 30, 40 turns ago. And it was just like impossible to attack Relay. And they couldn't attack me. And Bandar Log was sitting there turtling. I'm not sure if I go back. I might go back through and like do something like this where I ultra speed through the end of the game and just let y'all know how it ends. But anyway, I'm trying to kind of go back and make sure I finish these. But yeah, like that game with Ulm, I think I could have won. Like Ulm is a strong nation. So this is the first nation I've really played that I feel like is really unwinnable. You know, like I had 3 caps. Part of it was Theft of the Sun was up and people wouldn't take it down with me. But I mean, honestly, that just made it where there's nothing I could much do on my turns. Like I can't fucking recruit units. I mean, but, you know, some of those problems I could have worked my way out. I could have suicided my mages to get rid of my upkeep and then retooled my unit inventory to be like units that I thought could actually like win fights. You know, there are things I probably could have done to deal with the upkeep issue that I was dealing with that from the sun. But Mekone as they are right now, I think there's nothing really good. Well, like with how it's currently implemented, there's nothing good to say down here. And there's very, very, very limited good things to say up here. And then the fact that you get unrest in all your forts, which you can't dodge. You know, like you can patrol it to keep it from building up turn over turn, but it's still gonna hit you. I think this is up there. Like they have things they can do. And there's things I could have done better for sure playing them. For sure I could have done better. But I think it's probably the worst nation in early age. Probably the worst. Probably the worst. Maybe Oceania. No, I don't know. They're probably still a little better. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed the series. I can't say I enjoyed it. It was probably one of the more painful ones to record. Like, even when I was winning, like winning versus Kalem, winning versus Lanka, it was still super painful. And then through the end, I kind of just sped through it. So anyway, I'm excited. The game, you know, it's still turn 97 and I'm still doing turns, but it's finally basically done. So anyway, looking forward to being out of this game. The cool thing is I've got quite a few series that are going to be coming up after this, which are much more fun. I've got a Blitz that we did, and this will probably be the next one to come on, probably right after this. I got a Blitz that I did with middle-aged Phalegra. And now the Blitz happened before the patch that changed the Slaver mechanic, which was a pretty significant Phalegra nerf. But anyway, it was a fun game. So that will be coming up. And then after that, I've got an All-Stars game, which is basically... We did a draft where you could, you know, like every player alternated and they got to pick 1+ units from all the units in the game and combine them into one nation. So basically everybody alternated. Once somebody picked a unit, it wasn't available for the other players. So the units are all individually balanced in the sense that they all have the vanilla balance, so you can't like make an extra cheap unit or something. But you would never have kind of like the creme de la creme all on one nation. And so that's the theme behind All-Stars. So that will be coming up probably... The Bumble Rumble series is going to go a long time. But this will be running in parallel with that. So we're going to have the Phalegra game come up, and that's a Blitz, so it'll probably not be a huge number of episodes. But once that's done, then we'll have this All-Stars game come up probably, which will be fun. So there's a bunch of fun stuff coming up. I'm kind of glad to get through the recording of this and put Mekone behind me. Thank you all for watching. And also too, I'm also super open to the fact that I not only did I decidedly not win with Mekone, I'm also open to the fact that I don't understand them. So it is possible, though I think it's possible that there's just some key strategy that I didn't articulate, that actually makes these guys like a good contender. So if you know that strategy, feel free to leave that in the comments for other people to absorb, so they may play this nation. Skeptical that it exists, but I'm open to the idea, and I would love to read about it. Anyway, take care, guys. I will see y'all. I'll see y'all next time as Phalegra, which actually, it's funny that this is coming up next because they are actually the older cousins of these guys, and Phalegra, unlike Mekone, does not suck. Take care.